All right, we now welcome on a very special guest over in Europe. It is Timothy on to talk about his research he did on COP26. And really, his focus was the history of the type of event, tracking it through the years with different presidents like Barack Obama and a lot of different leaders. Timothy, could we just start with a general question? What was your biggest takeaway from tracking the COP from the beginning to where it is now?
Sorry, I didn't get that question very well.
So what was the biggest message or takeaway you learned from the evolution of what COP has become from its early days to where it's at now?
Okay, thank you very much for the question. From the history, from what has been happening over time, we personally, I discovered that according to in quotes, if I have to quote the words of the ex-president of the American ex-president Barack Obama, he said that most persons back then in Paris, they came together to come to a conclusion. But in his word, he said most leaders, they have not lived up to expectation. So the issue of climate change is a big issue that has affected lives all around in diverse places in different countries. So in a country like the United Kingdom, climate change has been a major problem. But though some countries they gradually working on theirs, trying to see how to help the issue of climate change, how to make sure that it is not really affecting the citizens of their own country that much. So for me, I feel some countries, they are trying to see how to help the situation right now.
Yeah, totally. I know for me in the United States, obviously, United States was very involved with COP26, but at the same time, as far as just the general population goes, it doesn't get as much media and coverage as I would have expected. So it isn't as talked about overseas over here. I would just ask you, what is it like over in Scotland, especially since COP26 just happened? What is like the media landscape of it, and how popular of a topic is it to discuss in Europe?
Okay, yeah, it became the order of the day. The media coverage of these COP26 was top notch. Like uh, every, in fact, every household gets a kind of a leaflet about it. I don't have the one I got in my house here. I think a friend of mine picked it up a few days ago. So like you keep getting information about it. The newspaper stand, every information you see there is all about COP26. The pre-COP26 conference, during the conference, and even after the conference, we keep getting some information about it. So the media coverage, not minding the population of people, you could see that there are billboards that carry seats, even in your place of work, like the place where I work, you could see even the practitioners there, they still in their various offices, there's still information about COP26. So it was the talk of the town, like everybody kept talking about it everywhere. So the media coverage was top notch. It was cool.
Yeah, I mean that's really important. As you said, it was like the talk of the town. As far as your takeaways from the conference, what, in your perspective, was the biggest single specific issue that got discussed and that politicians took action on?
Please, can you repeat that question again?
Yeah, for sure. So as you said, it was a really big deal in Scotland. It was like the talk of the town. From your perspective, as someone who lives over there, from your point of view, what do you think was the biggest issue that got talked about and that they found a solution or a policy to, I guess, act against it as far as like climate change goes?
Okay. During the coverage, you could see leaders from different parts of the world coming to aired their view about the issue of COP26, about the issue of climate change. The leaders from the developing countries like Nigeria, they came up and they talked about issues of funding. I think issues of funding is a major problem that hasn't made this issue of climate change really be functional. Funding, most developing countries, they have less fund to really put things in place. Some of them, they know what to put in place, but because the money is not available for them to do it, so it's really difficult for them to do. So that's why the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria came up and told the leaders, I think I personally covered that event, and told them that a country like Nigeria, another developing country, they need money, they need funding for them to go back to their country to really work on this issue of climate change, so that the citizens can be of greater advantage. And even other countries around the world, not to them, it might not be the monetary aspect of it, the financial aspect of it, but it might be with the issue of not having a leader with the same vision. Why do I say that? Ex-President Barack Obama said something that America as a country has not lived up to expectation, because the former president of his successor, Donald Trump, deviated from the vision. But in his word, he now said that thank God for the incoming, the current president, that is Joe Biden, that is on now. He is ready to work with the team in making sure that this issue of climate change is being resolved. Lastly, I also saw that there is a kind of a disconnection of unity among the world leaders. I think that is also a major problem why most countries have not really dealt with this issue of climate change. Imagine a conference like this where world leaders were called to come and talk about such issue. China did not send any representative. So, and these are big nations around the world that they are among the biggest. So they are represented well. So they should, if there is unity among the leaders, they should have sent their delegates down to come and talk about their own problem in their own country. But they didn't show up. And not just China. I think there's one other country. Is it Russia? I'm not too sure now. They did also send their own representative. So I think that the disunity among leaders is also a major problem that should be dealt with if this issue of climate change want to be worked on.
Yeah, I totally agree. That one word you used, unity, is so important, because three or four of the top emitters of methane, they weren't even at the conference. They didn't agree to sign the pledge, or I think Australia was there, but like if you look at China, Russia, India, as you mentioned, they weren't there. And it's so important from my perspective to have that unity you mentioned. So countries that might not be like the biggest in size, like as you mentioned, Nigeria, like if they get the funding, that is a huge milestone passed. And I guess my question is, so if that happens, say they do provide funding for developing countries, how can they use that money? What would it go towards specifically?
Okay, if this money is being provided, to me, I feel what they need to do is to see how to deal with this issue of fossil fuel. It's as if we are living the analog age into the digital world. Yeah, the most vehicles in Nigeria, they still make use of. It's time for us to move into the electronic method of transportation. In deviating a little, I was reading a post by Joe Biden a few days back. It was like he's the is it the car type in quotes? He loves driving, so that
I saw that too.
he has been given the opportunity to drive, and now he drove a kind of an electronic car, and he could talk about how it was. So when I saw that, I was really really happy. So if the funding is there, is to see how to eliminate those analog method of doing things, like the vehicle using fuel and all that. Let's see how to put them into extinction, and let's produce a kind of electronic method of doing things, so that the issue of smoking, gas, and all that, all those wastes, they will be really be curtailed, they'll be dealt with. So if that can be done, if that area can be settled, I think that funding has been utilized.
Yeah, I totally agree. As you mentioned, like when we saw President Joe, I saw the same post you saw where he was in the electric car, electric truck, and talking about how important electric vehicles are. We've seen it's still very dominated by gas-powered cars, which obviously burn so much fossil fuels and is really hurting the environment in total. We've seen the transition from, I guess, 100% gas guzzling cars to you start to see it more on the coast, like on the west and the east sides of America. It's more prevalent in near cities. It's more used as far as I guess charging stations and electric cars go. But we've definitely seen that transition, or the beginning stages of that transition. And when you look at, I guess, where it has to go, there's still a lot of work to be done, but it's definitely the future step that has to be taken. Because I mean, the world only has so many natural resources, and if we keep burning them into the atmosphere, it's going to be bad for everyone, you know. But yeah, thank you for coming on. That was my last question. If you want to start asking me questions, I'm happy to do that too.
Okay. Thank you very much for those wonderful questions. I think I will just ask some few questions.
Of course,
the issue of climate change, how is it generally in America?
As far as like the perception of it and how people think of it.
Sorry?
You mean like how people think of it?
Yeah, how people perspective about it, yeah.
Well, the main thing I would say to that is, as far as the younger generation, there's definitely way more focus on thinking of solutions to climate change. Like as far as millennials, Gen Zs, people in our age range, there's definitely a higher focus on it, but there's definitely less coverage of it in the media than there might be in Europe. There's definitely less people worried about it. There's other political issues, which in my opinion aren't as important as climate change, but they definitely are important. So that kind of divides some of the focus in the United States and North America in general. But I think it's kind of right now the older politicians aren't doing as much as the younger people are calling for, since the younger people will have to deal with it for the rest of their lives and the rest of like our children's lives, our grandchildren's lives. So it's a bigger issue for us, but obviously older people have more control of the country just because they have more experience and they're the higher political positions. So I think as we see more young people reach powerful roles and more activism within our own country, that will be the biggest thing that needs to happen as far as getting America more focused on combating climate change.
Oh, that's wonderful. Okay. During the period of these COP26, I guess that the media they have their own reportage about it. How was it covered over there in America?
So that's interesting. I would say there definitely was coverage of it because it was a major event where there were so many world leaders meeting to talk about an important political and just climate issue in general. So there definitely was coverage of it, but it was never, in my opinion, the lead story or the story everyone was talking about. There was other stories going on in the country that people focused on more than that, which obviously like they have importance to them too. But I think it was, in my opinion, it was undercovered in the United States. If I was at my college and I went up to 10 college students and I asked them to tell me something about it or how much they knew about it, I would say one or two people, maybe three people, could tell me something that happened there, or could even
Yeah.
tell me what it was. Because I have friends who I would bring it up to, and they would ask me like, "What is COP26?" And I think that's kind of an issue that the media and just news in general needs to shift towards in the U.S. as far as coverage goes.
Oh, that's all for my end. So thank you very much for the time.
Thank you so much. This has been great.
Thank you.
All right, have a good one. It's evening in the UK right now, right?
Yeah, it's 6:20 already. It's evening. So what time is it over there?